Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Ninja Selling Podcast. I'm Matt, he's Garrett, and we're obviously having a good time this morning, but welcome to this wonderful episode that we're going to be going through here. And if you're new to the podcast, thank you for joining us. And if you're new to Ninja Selling and want to learn more about it, you can always head over to ninjaselling.com. And if you're looking for an incredible community of awesome agents and people, it's not just real estate agents in our community, by the way. And that community exists on Facebook right now. If you head over to Facebook and search for the Ninja Selling Podcast, you'll find it. That's where people are hanging out, exchanging ideas, asking questions, giving answers, doing all the great stuff that you would expect inside of a community. So definitely hit that up. We have a fun topic today. And this came out, Garrett, when Garrett agreed with me when I brought this up, I think. And it was like, this came out when I was talking to a lot of agents, and you may be one of these people who's at a certain level where you're like, hey, I want to go to the next level. Like, what is it going to take? And you're looking for these big things that we can do to go from, you know, this number of transactions or this income to the next level. And when you get to a certain point, it's not about the big things, Garrett, anymore, right? It's about like, actually, what are the little things that we're doing that can compound and make a massive difference in this business? So I'm excited to dive in this with you today, Garrett. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We watch this happen all the time as coaches, we get so into people's businesses. Like, we are in all the folds and the understandings of what's going on, what's making this all work. And routinely what will happen is that like the most amount of work you're ever going to do in your business is getting it off the ground. And so it's like, you look at like the amount of work it takes you to get from 0 to 100,000. That's probably the hardest work you're going to do in your business, getting people to understand that you actually do this for a living, you know, showing up and building confidence with people where they're like, oh, this person actually knows what they're doing, starting to build testimonials and experiences of people. Interesting thing happens is going from 100 to 200 is not as hard. And that's where Matt and we started this conversation is that doesn't take as much work. Going from 200 to 300 is not the same amount of work as going from 0 to 100. 3 to 4, also not as hard. It just gets easier and easier and easier to kind of push up those levels. Now, there's always a certain point there that we kind of hit these thresholds of like, how do I handle all the work that I'm doing right now? But I think the conversation that Matt and I want to kind of throw on the table today and kick around is that we're not talking about the handling of the business for the most part. We're talking about the creation of the business to bring more opportunity and to have more people that we can be helping. And that actually gets easier and easier and easier to create more and more and more as you grow, as the timeline that you've put into this and what you've been able to build over time. So Matt, I love this idea. And again, you threw this one on the table, but I'm 100% in agreement with you. So let me throw this question to you real quick, because it's not a certain income. It's not a certain amount of transactions. It's not like, oh, this is where it gets easier. It just gets easier. Is that kind of where you're at? Like that threat?
Well, it gets easier. It also, but there's an element too of the things that you're looking to do, right? Because part of this was coming out of our conversation about just personal habits, right? And you start doing things that all of a sudden people find strange, which it's weird that people like, let's talk about eating healthy as an example. It's like, yeah, well, I'm going to make this tweak and I'm going to eat, you know, I'm not going to eat junk, or I'm going to decide not to drink alcohol and do all these things. And these things that are normal in society, that's like, well, but you're already in great shape. You're already doing so well. Why are you now pushing yourself to another extreme? People would view it as like when you're already doing really, really well. And it's like, well, because I want to be better. And I've seen what that can look like. And it's really not that hard to go from eating this way to eating just a little bit more this way. But the hard part comes in our mindset and what other people say. And so the same thing applies to business. When people are like, yeah, but you're doing great. Like, it looks like your business is great and everything. You know, why are you doing an extra 30 minutes of calls? Why are you doing more handwritten notes? Why are you doing real estate reviews to an extreme? Like, we were just chatting about Christine Duggar, right? And it's like,
yep.
Why are you doing real estate reviews at such an extreme level? It's like, because I want my business to be something absolutely different. And it's not now some grand thing. It's not like all of a sudden some big marketing program or thing's going to sweep in and just launch my business from a, $200,000 to $300,000, $400,000 business. Now, those elements can help, but it's going to come from doing things that people view as uncommon.
Mhm.
And this is the characteristic. And so while it's easy to go from every level you go up is a little bit easier, part of that is also percentage wise. If you think about it, you're not doubling your business anymore to get an extra 100K. The hard part is in the mindset of doing the things that are uncommon.
Well, so like if we go back to like the James Clear's Atomic Habits, and you look at that book, and he talks about the British racing team, cycling team, and their experience of racing in the Tour de France. So it's like you've got this buildup of like going from zero to being a race team is a lot. All the bikes, all the crew, all the stuff, all the things. Going now to knocking time off and being better with each individual race now as we go and getting more efficient with it and producing better results. It's the little things, as you said, Matt, the little things that kind of like push you just that little bit above. That's where the big results start to come in. And I love how they talk about in there as they realize the jerseys they were wearing. They could use their summer jerseys or they could use these winter jerseys. Well, the winter jerseys way more. So it's like, can we make it by, and can we do it with these thinner jerseys? The tires and having the different types of tires that they can use. And maybe they should use these ones that they use for training because they actually do a certain, I don't even know the exact components of this, but it's like, this was the idea of it was what's 1% better that will get this thing to have these exponential results. And you do this little piece over here and this little piece and this little piece at 1% better. Like it makes amazing differences in everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
I look at people's businesses, Matt, where they add in something as simple as like this year as a closing gift, I'm going to do, or when somebody buys a new home, I'm going to do a watercolor of their house and have it delivered to their house so they can hang it on the wall. That one little thing that maybe they didn't even paint. Maybe they took a picture and they gave it to a professional to have it done. Now, all of a sudden, this is a talking point that hangs on their wall that when people come into the house, they're like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful watercolor. Oh my gosh, that's your house. Where did you get that from? Like, it's a little teeny thing that creates this moment of discussion and talk and energy that may not have ever been there before. And these are these little teeny things we can do that produces like these exponential results as you continue to grow forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we even talked about it a little bit about the warm list, right? People will look at I don't really have that many people on my warm list. Like, well, what are we really learning about people? Are we asking the next layer of question? Are you seeking that out in general, or are we just kind of doing the stuff? And I know we talk about that a lot, but there's these nuances to doing something to just the next little level. It could even be, how we communicate in our emails, taking an extra moment we talked about celebrating people on our prior episode, taking the extra moment to just acknowledge somebody when you write an email to them, instead of just like, hey, Garrett, this, and this, thanks, Matt, right? It could be, hey, Garrett, hope that you're doing great, man. How was your last week? Like actually turning that email into a conversation or saying, hey, it was so awesome seeing the video that you posted of race day the other day. It was really exciting to see you guys out there. Sorry that you guys blew up the engine.
That was a jab.
Which did happen. But it's going to be fixed and it's going to be even better at the end of the day. But those are those little things that you can start to implement that seem strange. Like, why would you take the extra minute to write an email in that way when we're just trying to get the job done?
Yeah.
Right. Those are those little things when you have people saying, hey, you can still do the job if you just do this way. It's still getting to the result. You have to look at, I'm not looking at what does it take to get the job done right now. I'm looking at what does it take to be outrageously elite with how I'm doing this job. Same way we look at athletes in sports, right? People doing things that are just like, why are they going at that level of intensity when they already have that amount of talent in them? Because that intensity is what's going to get them to the top 0.1% of the game, which is where they want to be. And so, I mean, part of this, Garrett, too, is also acknowledging, like, where do we want to be? And kind of matching that goal with, okay, well, what intensity am I really going after this with?
Well, I think in like kind of an action item for people who are kind of listening to this, like, this is your opportunity to look at all of your systems and all the stuff you do and just say, how can I just add in that little bit more? Not redefine the whole system, not change it all up, not add in a whole new system that you've never done before, but look at all the stuff you currently do and just say, how can I make it just a little bit better? I was talking with, we were talking about the skills group we did on a past episode here.
Yep.
And I was talking with another group about that idea of like writing everybody handwritten notes and being able to share those handwritten notes so you can then say, okay, how could we improve this just a little bit? Like, what are some verbiage I could use in here? That's what I look at is like, it's hard to believe that that's the difference of something that would get you to the next level in your business. But that's a lot of times what we're talking about. It's those little teeny pieces that all of a sudden just change that impact at the same activity you're already doing. It's already there. We're just doing it a little bit better.
I think you're right in saying it's taking, I mean, and this was kind of what we wrote down in the notes for this episode. It's not about the big things that are going to get you up there. It's what are the little things that we can now compound.
Yeah.
And when you decide to make a goal of like, hey, I really want to go to this next level, you're also making a commitment that you're going to show up in a certain way. And, you know, we're all about increasing your income per hour so you can have a life for sure. But I think you also want to make sure that, hey, the goals that we're matching, like, what am I going to do to achieve that? And even getting to like the lady that you had who said, hey, I'm good with my income, but I want to do that working 3 days a week. There's a level of intensity and things that you have to show up for to be able to do that. And there's also a amount of things that you have to be okay with releasing,
Yep.
right? Hiring the right people to help make sure that, well, those other 4 days of the week when clients want service, who's going to be handling that? And how do I set those people up for success? Because the intensity that comes when I show up for those 3 days to make sure that those people are set for those 4 days is not just kind of like showing up to work and punching the clock. It's going to be a day of incredible action, not necessarily working long hours, but the actions are going to be significant and they're going to compound in this way that allows me to earn that income working 3 days a week.
So as I'm sitting here thinking too, it's like I'm looking back to like the people that I know that I've worked with in my time, which is them coming in, let's say I'm running at about a $250,000 business and I want to get to the next level. And some of them who I've coached for a long time, there's some of them that are running now at the 1.5 range. I've had some that have made it up to the $2 million range. And this is GCI in 1 year is what we're talking about. So that's not everybody is out there producing that. That's an extreme level. But these people have come in at the 250 range saying, how do I grow? Their goal initially was never to get to 1.5 or to get to 2. We had a lot of goals along the way that were like, how do I get to 300? How do I get to, and we would try to pick that apart and figure that out. And I think the interesting thing, Matt, is that the way growth happens in people's businesses is the people that I know right now that are earning 1.5 or have hit that $2 million mark, they're not really working a whole lot harder than what they were back when they were trying to figure out the 300 range. It's not like they're putting in, X times the amount of work to make those results happen. I think it's a really important thing that a lot of you need to understand as you're growing your businesses and you're looking at these futures that you're building in this and what you want it to be. It is not doubling the time to double the income.
They also didn't, Garrett, right, invest in some crazy expensive way to funnel more leads into the business, right?
No, these are people that just really took care of their database. They took care of their sphere of influence. They gave them their time. They gave them their energy. Exponentially, that gets more and more powerful every single year. So you got that on your side as you continue. You all know it. You know the people that you've met once, and it's a light relationship. And then over time, you get to maybe have a lunch with them or a dinner with them, or we see them at a party, and the relationship grows a little bit more. And then some of those people turn into your best friends that you can call on at any moment. But you can look back to when you met them at that party that first time. These relationships grow in intensity every single year. And if you pour your energy into it of really saying, okay, I'm going to grow these, this is important for me now to grow these, the results are crazy of what's going to be produced. And I think, Matt, to tie this back into your topic is that what we're looking for is it's not doing X amount more time, X amount more work. It is literally just what are the little things we can add in to emphasize the systems that we're already doing. It's the little things that make these exponential growths happen.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to watch from the outside. I know from being a coach with Ninja and all this for so long, I love getting to see the long storyline. of somebody who's making these types of results right now and where they came from. Again, they're not working any harder. It's not anything more difficult.
Well, I'll say this. I think they are working harder, not from the traditional way we look at working hard, right? And most people say, oh, working hard means you're putting in the hours, you're grinding it out. And I think that is a fallacy of definition of hard work, because that's not, you could put in the hours doing the inappropriate thing and call it like, hey, I'm working hard, but like that ain't hard work. That's just work.
Would it be better to say, they have the idea of work smarter, not harder, but I would say more intentional work.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I think if everybody looks at their plan and says, hey, if I do want to go to the next level, like where does my business come from? And how do I intensify with intention what I'm doing there to attract more of that? How do I level up my note cards just a little bit? How do I level up my real estate reviews, which we're going to be doing homeowner celebrations? Key into the prior episode if you missed that one. What are the things that I can do where, okay, now when I show up for work, like those 3 hours of on the business, I'm not going to have the distractions. I'm going to zero in. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing these things at a high level when I'm having my conversations. I'm going to really focus on asking the right questions to seek out those life changes. So my warm list is populated with the people who really have those changes. That's what we're talking about here. And it might sound simple. As we're talking, Garrett, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, gosh, this sounds so simple. And I think it is a simple concept, but in action, it can be very difficult. The British cycling team, as an example, it's like, okay, it seems simple to break all these things down and improve everything by 1%. And the compound effect of that is going to be significant, which it was. But actually going through and doing it does take intention and effort to make that happen. And that's where you have to call yourself up to that.
So I'm thinking about our car that we blew up that you happily pointed out here.
Well, I mean, if people like had a vision of what this car is, you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm not surprised that blew up.
Well, so it's interesting. So we have this car that we race, and it's very, I would say it's a very reliable race car is what it's been. It's a 260,000 mile Honda. We change the oil in it, we change the transmission fluid in it, and we go and race it about as hard as you'd ever want to push a car for 2 days. The interesting thing is that, and I think this can happen with a lot of people's businesses, is that we just kind of take it for granted as the machine that just kind of works. And we very rarely take the time. And we always joke about it when we're racing. We're always like, we feel like we should be doing more. Like it's like in the evenings, and like there's other people out there that have the entire engines ripped apart and they're doing all this stuff. And we're like, and there she is, just sitting there, like just going to go out and do the race. And this last race caught up with us. And I think it's not that we have to work harder, but like we came out of this race and even the race before going, okay, we need to have some protocols here of how we're going to make sure that we get the results that we want and also continue to grow and get better results than what we've been getting. And now we have checklists that we've started doing, and we have rotations of how people do certain things on the car. And when you tighten a bolt, it's okay to have somebody else come by and tighten it after you to make sure that that everything is going to work for the 2 days that we're going to be out on the track. And then if we want to get better, what does that look like? And there's an option of we can go buy a new car. Like we can go buy an entirely new car if we want to. But there's also tire pressure that we should be checking, and we should be checking it every single time it comes off the track. Do we do it? No, we don't do it. We don't check it when it comes off the track. We don't take the tire temperatures like we should. We don't do all these little things. But all these things are the stuff that will allow us to get better and better and better. And how much more time does it take? It doesn't take any time. We have to stop the car. We have to put gas in it. We have to put a new driver in it. Who's in charge of checking the tire pressure and making sure that the temperatures on the tires are right and they're wearing evenly? That's not any more time. It would happen in the exact same amount of time. It would give us bigger and better results, but it's so easy not to do. And all these races we've gone through, and like we get the cars back on the track and we all look at each other and we're like, yeah, maybe next time we'll check the tire pressure and we'll do this and do that. And and this time we got caught by a radiator hose, blew up, overheated the motor, and it caused a whole bunch of internal problems.
Such a good analogy, because I think back to the wheel falling off too.
That was me.
But it's having these checks and balances, and you look at, okay, if I have this plan of all these systems that I want to run, what are the additional just checks that we can put in there so that it is running just exactly as you said? Now, I mean, obviously with your race team, as things evolve too, and I think this is also the progression of how this works is this started as something fun that you and your friends do, right? And it's evolving now into like, hey, we want to win, right?
We get oddly competitive, at least I do.
But I think that's kind of the natural progression. And this is what we're talking about in your business. Like when you just want to get started or you're like, hey, I need to get some business. It's like, great, let's just go do anything almost. Just go have conversations. And then all of a sudden you're going to go from 0 to 50, right?
Yep.
And it seems like there's a lot of inertia there, but really the actions are way more simple at the jumps in the beginning than they are as you get to these things here. But the actions become, I mean, easier, right? But we just easy not to do. I don't know if that made sense, but it didn't. It did in my head before it came out of my mouth.
No. But here's the thought that I also had around this, which is the book 212 Degrees. Matt, have you ever read the book 212 Degrees?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very simple book.
I highly recommend it. I could not tell you who the author is of it right now. Very easy to find. There's actually videos of it online. And what they talk about is that, like, the difference of hot water to boiling water is one simple degree. And that one simple degree, that one little change, that rise in temperature, you can now power.
Sam Parker, by the way.
Thank you. You can now power a locomotive with that one extra degree temperature difference. Now you create steam. And so when you start to look at like the exponential results that happen in anything that we're doing, in the golf world, in the racing world, and whatever it is, you'll typically find that the difference between the people at the very top and the ones at the bottom, it's minute things. When you look at the golf scores out there, the top golfers around the United States, and what separates them from the golfers that are the top golfers in the world to the ones that you don't even know their name, it's not a whole lot. It's like a stroke, a half a stroke. It's like the craziest things in the world that you start to realize what separates these groups. And it's the little things, it's those little improvements constantly that all of a sudden give you these incredible results on the other end. And that's with anything you do.
Yeah.
And definitely in a business. And I think that business is an actual, because you're not necessarily, some of you might be, but because you're not necessarily in competition with others, you're really in competition with yourself to build your own business. It's not a direct comparison of like, I will make it when I beat out Tiger Woods. It's not that. It's I can build this thing into something incredible for myself. I am my own competition and what I'm going to grow this thing into. So how can I make it better this year? How can I make it better today? How can I grow this thing? And it's those little changes.
Yeah. And man, the benefit that comes out is huge. And I think coming back to where we started too is the biggest challenge that you're going to face with this is your mindset and what other people are saying, because it's going to feel weird being so specific with things in your business and being critical about these little tiny things. They're like, is that really going to make a difference? Yeah, it is. Here's the thing. You're not going to see it after the first time you do it, right? That's why I love like phone calls. When no one has ever made phone calls before and they go make a few phone calls, they're like, oh my God, this works, right? It's like, yeah.
They usually come back and be like, I did it. And I don't know. I didn't get any new leads.
Well, but sometimes you get like, oh my goodness, I made some phone calls and it turned into things, right? What we're talking about here are the things where the first time you do it, you're not going to notice a darn thing.
Yep.
But it's going to compound into a way where you're like, holy cow, like that has changed my business. Like you checking the tire pressures, like it's not going to change anything the first time you do it. You're like, hey, cool, we shaved a couple tenths on that one lap. With the amount of time you guys are out on the track, that compounded with, hey, we got 1-2 seconds better at our pit stops. The way we were doing these things. And all of a sudden that starts to add up and you're like, whoa, we're like winning our class now consistently because we made these little changes that now over time have added up into us saving all this time and having more efficient runs and all of these things.
And really for us, what it does is it makes the tires last longer. If you really want to pay attention to it, like the tires will last longer on the track.
Which then saves you money too, right? I mean, there's like other benefits that come out of this.
Saves money. I learned that by talking to another race team. And I was like, man, like we go through tires like in a day. Like that's usually we can get about a day, maybe 2 days out of a set of tires. And they're like, we get like 3 races out of a set of tires. I'm like, all right, we're doing something wrong. Like,
so I think, these are the things that I want people to look out for. I mean, even if you're not looking to go to like the next level, you're just like, hey, I just want to make some good income. These are the things, if you do them now, they're going to set you up to accelerate even faster through, that middle phase, perhaps. And it's going to give you the discipline to keep going in that way. And you're already going to be comfortable with the mindset associated with it. Well, I mean, this is the journey that people go on with health and fitness too, right? I mean, as we talked about. So, I mean, that's kind of, I wanted to framework the mindset that goes into this, Garrett. I mean, with the specifics, it really comes down to like, okay, the one-on-one attention with a business to figure out, like, there's no specific advice we have on like, hey, do this with this kind of thing, other than this is how you want to approach it.
Well, and I think to bring it back to your topic, like as you are growing, as you're building this business, be very clear that, to get to the upper levels is not about rebuilding. It's about taking a lot of the systems you already have and fine tune them, make them a little bit better and a little bit more on point. And the difference of going again from that 100 to 200 or the 500 to a million or a million to 2 million is not necessarily having to do double, triple the work. It is literally about just continuing to fine tune a lot of these systems that you have. So a lot of the same time, same energy is being put out. They're just more effective uses of time and energy. And yeah,
hands down,
that's where we're at.
Amazing. Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah, man. So with that being said, I don't know, did I lead in or you lead in? I let in.
I let in.
You let in.
Yeah.
You let in. Everybody out there, thank you so much. We appreciate you tons. If you want to go check out more of what we're talking about and kind of the philosophies of where this all comes from, go check out ninjaselling.com. You can learn about upcoming installations. You can learn about the coaching program that we oversee. I oversee. Matt's in my world. You can go check out Larry Kendall's book, Ninja Selling. And if you want to learn more about people that are like-minded like you, be able to send referrals, learn from others that are doing these systems and how they've worked for them, how they've gotten 1% better in their worlds, go check out the Ninja Selling Podcast community on Facebook. And with that being said, have an amazing day. We appreciate you tons. Matt, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Garrett. Thanks, everyone.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.